But yeah, I don't know. I just kept hitting the pavement until it happened. Unfortunately for me, it happened pretty early on, but it was all due to one editor believing in me.
Yeah, and like it takes a lot of rejection. You know, I mean, like anything in life, it's almost like a test. Like, how much are you? You know, there's always someone that's in line behind you. So it's like if you're trying and trying and trying and trying and you keep getting rejected, like if you give up, there's someone right behind you that wants to be rejected even more. That will keep going. So it just don't. If you want something bad enough, don't step out of line.
Yeah.
Just stay in line. I don't care how many times you get rejected. I mean, if life is so hard and life kind of moves you off because you've been rejected or whatever, then I mean, maybe it's not meant to be, but if you really want it, just don't stop. That's it, they talk about that fine line between how many emails do you want to send, you don't want to annoy anybody and all that, so it's just, just kind of,
imagine you're them.
Yeah, imagine you're them, and also yeah. So it's like, maybe we should get the point at one time, but also, I don't know, just keep going every couple months, probably do it every week.
Yeah. The other thing is just, I mean, the industry has changed a lot. I mean, I don't feel like I'm a veteran, but this time I've been in here for 10 years, and I don't think I could break in the same way that I did back then. Because, believe it or not, it's just still a fairly young industry, and so the way that things have changed with the internet, it's never been easier to break in than it is right now. And I actually benefited from that in the beginning, just with email and websites and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, because of that, the competition has never been harder. Right? So you're now competing with not only everybody in your state, city, country, it's all over the world. And Marvel knows that, and so they're actually actively seeking out people all over the world. So you now have to be, as close to world class as you possibly can, just in order to get on covers and interiors. That's a whole other thing. Like I'm mostly on covers now, but I don't know. Did you do interiors before you went to covers? Or you just straight to covers?
Yeah, interiors were never my thing really.
It's hard. That's why I haven't done it in like it's been about a year since I did any interior work. But it's a lot of work. It's tough, but it is more. For me, the difference between the two is like it's candy versus like nutritional food. Like covers, I can get them done. I'm like, yeah, I finished that book. Like I'll slog through a book, but when it's done, I'll be like, yeah, that took so much out of me. But then I won't want to work on another one for quite a while.
And also, like knowing what you want to do. Like I knew I just wanted to do covers, so that's what I really focused on, and that's what I pursued. And that was my portfolio. As an artist, you have a ton of work, So, but if you're going to show someone your portfolio for a specific reason, you're not going to put things in there that don't apply to what you're going for, So if you can do covers, but you really want to do interiors, don't put cover stuff in that portfolio that you're going to show an editor for interiors. Get in where you want to be in, and then maybe later on you could suggest, maybe I'll do a cover or something like that.
How long does it take to do covers?
I would love a lot more time than I get for that, but I get like 10 to 12 days, which is tight, which is pretty tight. So I just make it happen, I just make it happen. Like I would love to another week, I love that, or even another 2 days. A day is really important. It can make a difference. And there's even been times where I'll get it in on the deadline, and then I'll work on it the next day, and I'll send it in again. I'll say, hey, I know I already sent it in, but I fixed it a little bit, So, and usually that's all right. I wouldn't really want to make a habit of that. Usually it's all right to do that.
Yeah, and then most editors will have a little bit of leeway built in, but the difference is, in order to access that leeway, you have to have a pretty good relationship with them. So that means always tell your editor the truth. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are like, they don't want to disappoint, and so they'll stretch the truth a little bit and say, yeah, I can get it done this day. It's like, if you can't get it done that day, don't tell them you can't. You just always tell them where you're at and how long it's going to take you. And most of the time they can work with you. But the real secret is telling them no. Like, if you want more time, just say, I can't do it by then. And if they come back to you, then that's a good thing. If they don't, then you got to kind of go back and say, all right, I'll get it done. But what I've been doing lately is just, I'll basically schedule everything every 2 weeks. So I'll try and give myself 2 weeks for a cover at the very least. But I'll take more if I can. I can get a cover done in less time than that, but this is just comfortable because I can work on this one, I can submit a sketch, and then while I'm waiting for them to get back to me, I can work on something else. So I usually have at least 2 covers going on at the same time, and sometimes a lot more than that. Just, it's all about scheduling. I use iCal. I'm always like scheduling out my day. I have hours. I even have like a little app where it like tallies everything up at the end of the day, so I know how long I spent on penciling, painting, coloring, all that kind of stuff.
Is there an age limit that the industry is looking for to discover different artists?
An age limit?
Or can children be discovered, teenagers, or?
And as long as the work is professional and it's up to the standard, then I don't really think it matters. I mean, maybe 18 because you gotta get a check and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've heard stories like back in the 80s, 90s of guys working that were like 16, 17, but they were like superstars. And it didn't always work out well in the end. I started when I was 21, I think. 21. But my first professional gig I got when I was 19, but it was just kind of like a one-off thing. So, if you're good enough, they'll hire you. But most teenagers don't have the. It's not just that they don't have the skills; it's the life. They have other things that they need to do, like school or just, But it helps having the pressure of paying rent to get you to finish hit all your deadlines.
So for children, what advice would you give them? Just to keep on working for
Yeah, draw as much as they can. The nice thing about now is you can have a website, a blog. I have a blog that I update every single week. And the thing is, I started doing it because I was painting and I was very slow, so I was not on the stands very often. But the difference is with a blog, if you do it regularly, post regularly, it's not the same as being published, but people will at least keep you in mind. So your readers can go back there, and even sometimes editors will keep track of you that way. I don't know if mine do, but
I also think it's important, like the timing of when you're gonna start putting your work like on the internet, because there's a lot of stuff if you Google my name under images that I'm like, I put it on the internet years ago and it's not going away. And I'd rather that my new work now be there, but it's not. So it's like if you're, I don't know if he's 18, 19, graduated high school and he knows what he wants to do, I still would recommend not like putting everything on the blog and constantly putting stuff I just want to, if it were me, I'd want to get to a certain skill level before I started putting stuff on the internet.
Is there like a worry that you guys, well, not you in particular, is there a worry for others to steal your work on the internet?
Yeah, it's always there, but it's like, who cares, what are you gonna do? Like, I see people that will like disable the right click, so you can't right click. All you do is take a screenshot.
Yeah, if it's on the internet, it's everybody's.
And you can't, like I'm not gonna put my work on the internet because I'm afraid someone's gonna save the image, then my work isn't out there and people aren't seeing it, Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to make a living selling my artwork. If someone really wanted to try to make a living selling my artwork as prints, I mean, how much are they gonna sell it for?
Yeah.
It's not. They're not gonna make a ton of money.
Yeah, I've had that actually happen where like people will have my artwork and they're selling print, and usually there are fans who will alert me to that. But I've never even had to like tell them to stop. It just stops because they realize they can't make anything that way. But I've had people like, you know, actually they'll repaint one of my paintings. Fortunately, it wasn't as good, so no one bought it. But you know, it's going to happen, and the way to combat it is not to make them stop. It's for you to make more work. You know, if you're your own factory, no one can copy you. Just like it's more important to just get your work out there as much as possible.
How does one go to Marvel, go show your work to these large companies that have other things to do? Like, is there a paid contacts, or do you recommend talking to people like you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first question was how I did it, and it was here last year. There was an editor, Lauren Sankovich was here looking at portfolios. I showed him my portfolio. That's it. So go to the conventions. You know, I know they usually list all the guests on the website. So I don't know if you're from here or wherever you're from. Yeah, just pay attention to that. Sometimes you can find them online. Like they're all on Twitter and all that.
All
you know, I mean, but at the same time, you know, someone asked me about, you know, emailing versus in person. So yeah, face to face is always better.
You're not going to get into the office anymore. Like I was saying, like 10 years ago, I could get in there, and now it's all, you know, glass doors and swipe cards, and yeah, you're not getting in. I can't get in there. Like I have to be escorted every time I go to the office. So
yeah, it's definitely a larger, more secure place.
yeah, no, it's a fortress now. And back in the day, like they've moved 3 times since I started, because they just love doing that. And the first building, like I could just I couldn't walk in, but almost. You know, if I knew somebody, I could get in. I could just have them let me in, and now that's not going to happen. So yeah, you know, basically. Yeah, at the conventions, I mean, that's the thing, is they make themselves available at conventions for specifically that thing. And, you know, if you wow them, they'll hire you. I mean, it's just that simple. They have tons of artists, but they are always looking for new ones. And it seems to me, I don't know for sure, but it always seems to me like Marvel is more willing to hire new people. I haven't worked that much for DC, so I can't say for sure, but I just get the impression that they're always, like every time I see something new that I like, it'll be like a new Marvel artist. Whereas DC, I feel like I see more of my favorite artists who've been around for a while. I don't know how true that is.
Do you feel like that turnover rate with Marvel affects you in terms of getting jobs? It's important for you, even though you're on the roster, I mean, you're there, you're already kind of in.
I haven't noticed.
It doesn't affect like the flow, you know, the consistency of getting the.
Not really. You know, I'm in the fortunate position where I have editors that I like working with, and it seems like they like working with me. So I generally tell them what I'm looking for. And right now, to be honest, I'm not looking for much because I'm trying to concentrate on my own stuff. So all I have is a regular monthly gig on covers, and then just random covers here and there whenever. And I actually really like that. Like having that one thing I can count on every single month is great. And then that leaves a little bit of extra time in case they're like, hey, do you want to do this Iron Man variant? I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And you know, it just depends on what my schedule is at the time.
So that relationship though, I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, obviously it's a continuous thing, you can't push them too much. You could ask more if you want.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I was on Daredevil up to 2011. And it was me that left. It had nothing to do with them. So that was all my fault.
Just going back to his question, the one that was asked before, yours about you know, meeting in person and all that. At the portfolio review, I thought it was like to submit to get work, you know. But a portfolio review is really for the editor, like look at your stuff and just critique it, kind of trying to, you know, push you away or whatever. So I didn't know that. I thought this is my opportunity to show my work to Marvel, and you know, she's looking through it and she's, you know, making comments, and I didn't say anything. I'm just listening, and then the last thing she asked me was, "Do you have any questions for me?" And I said, "Yeah, how do I work for Marvel?" And she said, well, this is a portfolio review, and she even told me, she's like, it is extremely rare that we hire off a portfolio review. She said, we get our artists word of mouth, reference. She even said she herself looks on DeviantArt and all these places for artists herself. And sounds like a little discouraging to hear that, but it seemed like she liked my stuff, and she asked me for my card, and I gave her my card, and she called me, so it's not impossible, you know.
What would you say your skill level was at that time compared to everyone else who was getting reviews?
Compared to everybody else that was what?
That was, getting reviews. Did you stand out?
Oh, I was first in line and I just left. I didn't see him. I was super excited, man. I jumped on that opportunity, so I wasn't watching, you know. But even now, like, I mean, it was only a year ago since I'm like so much better now than just 1 year ago. But I mean, all my favorite artists work for Dekal, and I still feel when I go to the shows that I'm like, I'm really next to these guys. I still feel like I have a lot to get better at and all that, you know.
Was the lady that looked at your art, was she an artist?
No, she was editor.
History major. No, wait. No, anthropology. Sorry.
That was my next question. How are they qualified to be an editor? Like,
Editor is the weirdest job in the world. Like, I totally understand my job. Like, I can explain to people, like, I draw Spider-Man. Editors, like, honestly, a bunch of them seem like they have backgrounds in drama, in English, well, it's like anything kind of vaguely story related.
Yeah, because when I get the description of what, I know it's different with every editor. Some editors will be like, I don't know what I want, just give me a bunch of sketches. But my editor, would like every single cover, she had this description that it seemed like it was some kind of she was like some kind of literary major or something.
This is Lauren?
Yeah, she'd have these ideas, and
I haven't worked for her in a while.
Maybe she wouldn't tell me. Sometimes she'd be really descriptive. Other times she'd kind of give like a little maybe backstory of what happened, and what did Sif go through? Sif went through something and it made her like this, and that's what we want to portray. So it's like like you said, like fiction, like literary. It seems like that's what she was into.
Yeah.
Because it's all about story. It's all about the story. So.
Yeah, I almost feel like the editors are there, obviously to corral us, but I feel like they're more there for the writers, because what the writers have to do is, in essence, a lot more complicated. Like our job takes more time, but their job has to interact with other writers. Like, I don't have to interact with other artists. I just have to get my script and then draw it. But with the writers, like, they have to, they have big summits, and they all get together and they plan out the next 2 years. Like, I never have to go to anything like that. And I think the editors, like, that's their main job, is to keep those character stories going year after year after year for decades. So it's, obviously they give us our jobs and they put us with writers, but it's not quite the same relationship that they have with writers.
Are you guys familiar how writers get found from them? Is it kind of like you guys with a portfolio review? I mean, I heard it's a lot harder.
They do. It's a lot harder. They have to have published work. It's basically what it comes down to. It's easy for us. Like, I can look at someone's 5 pages and know whether or not they're ready to work. And with a writer, I can look at those 5 pages instantly. And with a writer, like, it's hard to get anyone to even read. So it basically, just put yourself in their position. It's like, why are you taking the time to look at somebody else when you have all these established people who you already have their contact? So when I talk, to aspiring writers, which I'm actually one now, like, I'm trying to figure out how to do this, I'm just going to write what I want to write and then figure out later how I'm going to get it done. And the same thing applies to artists now too. Like, because you can publish yourself digitally now, and because of certain other things like comicsology, you can get your work out there on your own. You don't necessarily need a big publisher. And so I have friends who went the indie route, but once they got a name with doing their own stuff, they ended up being picked up by Marvel and other companies later on. So that almost seems to me the way things are going, as opposed to the way it used to be, where you had like a portfolio review. But it still happens.
I was wondering, did you have to take any classes in order to become like an accomplished writer?
An accomplished writer?
Oh, well, an inspiring writer.
Yeah. No. I've read 2 books. Ask me in 3 years, and then we'll see how things have gone. Yeah, I'm not a professional.
I'm not really here, but you just mentioned comicsology.
Yeah, it's a digital comics platform. It's actually now the 3rd highest grossing app on iTunes. It's just digital comics they sell in their own store. And, Marvel, DC, all the major players with it. But I think they've actually started publishing stuff on their own.
Sounds to me like a major at a university.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's honestly it's fairly new. It's become very popular in not that long. I mean, I remember going to a digital comics thing like this, but I was in the audience just hearing what their pitch was, and that wasn't that long ago. So they've really made a lot of progress since then.
We even have comicsology where self-publishers can submit their the comicsology submit.
Yeah, and there's the panel syndicate. Marcos Martin, who used to be on Daredevil with me, he's now doing his own his own stuff with Brian K. Vaughan, where it's a pay what you wish model, and they're just doing it all themselves. And from what I can tell, it seems to be doing really well, but I don't know what the actual numbers are. But the difference is, when I pay what I wish, that's going straight to Marcos Martin. That's not, no one else is getting that money. So yeah, exactly. That makes a huge difference.
Just had 2 questions. One for you guys in terms of, do you think like for the indie route, do you think, obviously exposure is a big deal, but with social media, you can really generate a lot of buzz through your own website because you're not gaining audience members. And do they take notice?
I think so. I mean, if you put stuff up on a regular basis, you notice.
And then the second question, obviously, for artists and getting jobs, obviously, how do you think superstar factor plays into it? There's this whole mystery thing, like, okay, you get started, you're just 1 in a million, working for Marvel now. It's like, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that? Because you very well could be better than somebody who's...
It happens.
I think it goes to right time, right place to show up. Like I said, I just showed up to the portfolio review. If I didn't show up, I wouldn't be here right now. Just persistence, and like I said before, just there's always somebody in line behind you. If you don't want it, if you step out of line, if you get discouraged, there's someone right behind you. And obviously there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of chefs, there's a lot of lawyers, a lot of everything, but just persistence, right time, right place, showing up, and making your work stand out as much as it can, because you could do all the promotion in the world, but if you're not good or you don't put the time and the passion, the effort in, make sure your work is standard, or follows the standard for whatever industry you're going for, you're probably not going to stand out. And it's hard to, you want to tell everybody, don't quit, you can do it, you're going to make it, but we all know everybody doesn't make it, and it's just, there's a difference between the people that do make it and the people that don't, and I think it's the things that I just said.
And I guess what I'm asking you too is, once you've made it, so let's say, okay, you take a note of all those things, your work is world quality, world class, whatever, you've made it. What then is the barrier to like, being like a Brian K. Vaughan or like a Mark Millar or something like that, it's like...
It's out of your control, unfortunately. It's, like just for taking myself, for instance, like, all you have control over is the quality of your work. So everything I've ever done, I put everything I've got into it. And just in the last 2 years, I feel like my career has changed and it was all because I got on Daredevil. Now I only did 6 issues of Daredevil, but I got a bunch of awards for it, which is great. And I feel like I'd done stuff prior to that that was just as good, and in some cases I thought even better, but it just didn't get the recognition because who knows?
Yeah.
You know, you can't control that kind of stuff. Now once that does happen, you can totally take advantage of it. I definitely have. But it's one of those things that like you can't tell. But you know, I noticed a switch between literally 2010 and 2011. Something happened, and like I started getting invited to a bunch more conventions, getting put on more panels. Like it's it's just one of those things you can't really tell. Work with Mark Waid. That's what I'll tell you. That will help your career.
Yeah, and I did all the covers for Journey into Mystery. I did all 10, and the book came to an end, and I didn't even have to ask her, but Lauren told me, she's like, the book's gonna come to an end. I'm gonna give your name to all the other editors, and if they like your stuff, we'll do it. And I mean, it hasn't been that long. It's been like maybe 2 months. But I haven't heard from them, and there's nothing I could do, except wait. But like I said, I got that Valiant job when I was in North Carolina, and they had seen, and I got that job because they had saw my Journey into Mystery covers. So it's like a snowball effect. But you can only do so much. You just got to do everything you can in those areas, and then there's gatekeepers, and you don't have the key to those gates. They have to let you in. You got to be ready. When you get to that gate.
When you submit your gig, do you do it digitally, or do they want you to show up to discuss the work? You can work out of your home, your own studio, and not have to show up
I
at
don't even
all.
put on pants.
Yeah, I'll take a shower. Just a tank top.
It is everything from your laptop, and there it goes on each gig.
Yeah, I work with my dad. He inks all over my pencils, and so, he's in Florida. I just moved to California, and I scan in my pencils, turn the blue line, send it to him. He inks over a print, and he scans that, sends it back to me. I color it digitally, and then I send that digital file to Marvel or Valiant or whoever. And it's all pretty seamless.
Yeah, it's all email. It's all email.
Yeah, very rarely phone calls or anything.
You don't have to fly and discuss the work.
They don't have the budget for that.
I've talked to her. I think if I did 10 covers, I think I spoke on the phone twice. But 8 of them were email. And I think she called me for one of them because it was a little detailed or whatever, and then I called her for one because I had some concerns about like a change or something. But it was just those 2 times, and the other times it was just email. It wasn't anything too complicated.
And I like email because there's a record.
Right.
I'm always checking back. They'll send me like a long email that will have everything lined up. Like this cover is going to be about the Sinister Six, and the next cover is going to be Spidey versus so and so. And I always have to go back to that. So it's nice to have it all under the same email chain. But yeah, it's pretty much all digital, and it has been for a while. When I started, I was sending them actual artwork. I lived in New York for 10 years, and I would occasionally go by the office to drop stuff off, but then they lost one of my paintings, and I stopped doing that. So it's probably better that it's all digital now.
How's it?
Let's go for her.
Do you think artists are born, or do you think everything's an acquired skill? And can you tell the difference between an artist what it comes naturally to, or does someone who's had to teach themselves how to draw or create?
I think it's acquired, personally. But here's the thing. Here's my general, because it is a big issue, and it has to do with not just art, but like all kinds of stuff. I think there are people who are naturally talented, but the thing is, I could go back in time and look at myself when I was much younger, and show little Paolo what slightly bigger Paolo can do, and I wouldn't be able to process it, and I wouldn't think I would ever be able to get to that point. So you know, who's to say what people are capable of? Like, I love to draw, and I knew I had some talent for it, but the difference between what I was doing when I was a little kid and what I'm doing now, it's just a world of difference, and about 10 years worth of practice. So it's a little bit of both, but what I think it really comes down to is just the determination to do to love something enough to work at it, you know, 10 hours a day or more every day of your life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're born with the will and the personality to have what it takes to keep going and to do what we do. You know, so it's definitely that. You're not born with like, you're not born to be able to just draw. You're born with the will to want to keep going.
So you practice and then you show who? So
I showed my parents first. I was lucky, both my parents were artists, so like right off the bat I had a leg up on everybody. My parents had an art supply store, so I had unlimited time and unlimited art supplies. So you really, honestly, you can't beat that. I know everyone's like groaning. I said that I went to art school too, and I like said that in the first class, and everybody like, oh. But
So for a child that's interested and has the talent to draw, do you recommend that they get professional drawing lessons, or they just practice on their own, just get critiques?
I think it should be everything. Everything in Pasadena, I feel like it's a lifestyle. You know, like
you won't be able to stop them from drawing.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
And like, forget comics, forget my moral stuff. I've been doing, I'm like into hip hop and stuff. So I've been doing shows. Like in Miami and stuff, they'll have people painting live, like, they'll have a musical, forget hip hop, just any music, they'll have a musical act, they'll have artists painting live, they'll have stuff, and it's a lifestyle, and I would get invited because people knew me and knew that I'm an artist and I do that stuff, and so I mean, if he's into it, then he's probably already going, I don't know how old your son or whatever, okay, right here, so I'm sure they're hanging out with their friends and they're drawing together already, so just continue doing that, and then as you get older and older, so as you get older and older, if you stay in that lifestyle, you stay in that circle of that artistic circle, events will happen, and you show up, you go to the events, you show your work, you just keep going, so then when someone has some event or they have something in mind, they'll, oh, so-and-so, well, they'll be good for that.
But do you find it that people that make it actually have like proper educational lessons in art?
No, not necessarily. I mean, sometimes not. It's not a requirement. Again, it can totally help. You go to a great art school and you learn by great artists, that could absolutely help.
Yeah. I mean, I went to art school, but my dad didn't. He's really good. So it just, he grew up. His dad was a butcher, and he would draw literally on butcher paper because that's what he had. He's completely self-taught, both hands too. So it's just the will and the determination. And education helps, but at this point, that education I think is available online almost everywhere. I mean, that's kind of almost the most amazing part about it. Is like when I was growing up, I would see something and I wouldn't know who did it, and that doesn't happen anymore. Like, I would see this one painting and I'd be like, oh, who is that? I'll never find out who this person was. And now, like, all you have to do is a reverse image search, and you can find out everything they ever did. And that's half of it. It's just inspiration, like finding out what you love and then figuring out how those people did it. So it's all out there. It's never been more accessible.
What were some of your freelance things that you did prior to?
Waiter at the Olive Garden.
No, I mean like someone asked you to, like, right now I'm at Home Depot and I'm like doing retail signs and every day almost, but I'd like to do more.
Really, you just have to do what it is. I'm talking in your spare time. You got to do what it is that you want to do. I have friends that graduated with me from art school, and were good, and just never found you know, an editor or company or what who was willing to publish. But one friend, Brian Brown, who has for the last 10 years just been doing his own book. I mean, the guy honestly has more will than I do, because I think personally I would have stopped at some point and just like, okay, it's not going to work. But he finally did his own book. He finished it. He put it up on Kickstarter. Raised 75 grand, and he published the book. You know, I ended up doing a cover for him, and now Image picked him up, not just on a couple of their books, but gave him his own monthly. So it's like, you know, he's kind of like the best example of like freaking determination. Like I said, like I don't think I could have done that, but he stuck to it for 10 years, and now he's reaping the benefits of it. You know, there's no more. There's nothing more I can say about that.
Yeah, and then he just said 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, it may not take everybody 10 years, but it's not going to take a month. It's not going to take. Probably won't even take a year. You know, it's constant. You know, like I went to. I don't know if this has anything to do with your question, but he said something that made me think of it. Like, I've been doing conventions for years. It wasn't until I got the Marvel job that people wanted me to do convention sketches. Like, no one cared about me until I started working for Marvel. And now it's like I got four commissions already, and I've only been here for like a couple hours. And that's like crazy to me. I'm like, I still can't get over that. But, oh no, what made me think about that is he said when he did the cover for his friend, that's kind of when it started picking up, right?
No, I boarded that wagon. I saw it was doing so well. I was like, I want to be a part of this. And I called. We were roommates back in the day,
right. So
like we're good friends going way back. And he was like, oh, I didn't ask you because I figured you'd be too busy. And I was like, all right, I want to be a part of this.
But my point is that if you're doing something independent and you know you're a nobody, if you get someone with a repertoire or someone that's important to work with you that gets you noticed, you know, unfortunately, you know, that's, you know, it's like a double-edged sword. It's like sucks that you got to get someone else who's already got some fame to help you out. It sucks that you can't just do it yourself, but at the same. But then you just
I've people have given me their work, and if it's good enough, I'll pass it on. I mean, simple as that. And people have gotten work like that. Do you know? I don't want to shout out. There's somebody who works for Marvel who has a job because I gave them the email of editors, but I wouldn't have done that if I didn't think their work was good enough. So it's like if you find somebody, give them your card, show them your work. If they like it, chances are they might pass it along.
Right.
So not everyone come up at once.
But you know, and again, it's like if you're independent and you find somebody that has a foot in the door, you know, that person's not going to want to help you if they don't see that you're already helping yourself. They're all like, his friend was already doing all this stuff. I know I've had a ton of bad experiences when I was younger that I referred people for something, but I didn't really think about it or realize that they're not doing what they should be doing, and then that person did contact the person I referred and it didn't work out, then I feel embarrassed because I gave that bad reference. I don't do that at all anymore. I almost don't give any references anymore because I've had too many bad experiences with that. But I'm not saying I never will again. Like he said, I would have to see that person like really doing it, really, you know, good, and I think that their work is up to par, and I see how much work they're doing. I would give them, you know, an editor's email or something like that. But it would take.
But I'd ask the editor first.
Right. So yeah. So yeah, thanks for saying that. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, you said that you usually, like, you'll sometimes give somebody a reference and that kind of helps them get the job.
I'm sorry, say again?
Yeah, you said sometimes you give them like a reference and that helps somebody get like a job, right?
It has happened.
It has happened. So, like, are they like consistent? Because you say you believe in them for a while. So are they consistent with it? Like they stay relevant for a while, or like after your recommendation, do they fall off and like they're not? Comic keep going?
Well, there's only one guy. It was a specific example where like he emailed me, and I passed along his email, and now he's working for Marvel. But there are plenty of other people who I didn't necessarily make the introduction, but I knew they would make it on their own. Just you can see that in somebody, like they're gonna make it. They've put in the legwork. They're gonna
give them like a little boost.
Yeah. In that one case, and I actually did just recently pass on. Actually, I met this guy in the gym in my neighborhood when I lived in Brooklyn, and he recognized me because I had been at the Society of Illustrators, which is like a little, I guess it's a club. I don't know, but it's he recognized me, said he was an illustrator, lived in the same neighborhood, and we exchanged emails, and years and years later, he wanted to start working for Marvel. He already had his own illustration career, but he wanted to start working for Marvel, and so I passed on his information, but I don't know if he's going to get a job or not. I'm trying to think. And also the other guy, well, I won't mention who he is, but who is working for Marvel now, he already had work. It just wasn't at Marvel. That's the other thing. So there's a different story for every single person who got in. There's all different manner of ways of getting in. It just depends on being the right place at the right time, but you don't know what those two things are.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure you're everywhere and you're as good as possible, and the rest is up to fate.
What is a good introduction? Like, for instance, a card, your contact information, and what else? 30 pages of worth of drawings? No. What would be like
I would say like, I think I have like 10 to 12 images.
10 or 12 images?
Yeah, and like,
contact information?
just your best stuff. Just the
Yeah.
best stuff. And
Top
like,
line.
yeah, top of the line. And like sometimes I might not like something that much, but I'll get a lot of great feedback on it, and then I'll add that into the portfolio. I'll put it on my website, and I might not have, but since I just get such good feedback, I will. So show it to a lot of people, and just acquire that feedback. But also you want it to be your own art, your own best stuff that you think, but just the best of the best.
So just as a minimum, just drawings, images, or would you say also a site or a blog as a minimum?
I mean, it depends on the situation where you're meeting the editor. I have my portfolio for her for examples of my work, and then I gave her my business card with my contact info on it. So I guess a portfolio and a business card.
Yeah, generally, they need to see how good you are, and then they need to know how to contact you. So as long as they have those two things.
And then you give away that portfolio to them?
No.
Or you take it back?
Yeah, I took it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen people they'll have like a little stack to give away, but honestly, I don't think most of those are kept.
Yeah, maybe like a 4 by 6 inch flyer.
Yeah.
At the most. I mean, they have all their luggage. They have stuff they don't put it in their stuff. Business card just goes into the pocket or the wallet.
Yeah.
Has anyone like started in the mail room and worked their way up?
I think that used to happen. I don't think that happens anymore. I do think that happens with writers. I feel like I've seen quite a few editors who like eventually wrote something. But you can't do that as an artist because you don't have time to work a real job and do artwork. It just takes too much time. So yeah, I think it used to happen, but I don't think it happens anymore. And there are at least a few people who work in the bullpen doing like graphic design work, and then I know that they have their own work, but they don't work for Marvel. They're just kind of doing their own comic books on the side. So yeah, it's tough to say. It's all that's basically what it comes down to. It's a very personal industry. It just always comes down to the individual and what they want to do versus what Marvel wants from them. I'm sorry?
Maybe just good writing skills. Just be good. That's it.
If you find out, let me know. Yeah, as far as writing goes, I did read one book that I liked quite a bit called Story by Robert McKee, and it's more about screenwriting, but it has a lot to do with just character development and mixing both narration and exposition with character development, like having the two work together and happen at the same time. Because that's always the best stories happen when it's both entertaining but also informative. So it's always that balance where you need to convey a certain amount of information for the plot, but you don't want to just have a block of text where it's like this happened and this happened and this happened. You know, it needs to feel natural even though it's not natural at all.
Have you read that book by Alan Moore, Writing Comics?
No.
That's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, probably. I might get around to it. There's actually a lot of like really great comic literature that I haven't read at all. I like How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. That's kind of my favorite.
Yeah, Scott McCloud.
I have read Understanding Comics.
Yeah.
I think I read his other one. I didn't like it that much.
I feel like that's the most special thing you could have to write comics, I guess.
Yeah, Understanding Comics was really good, but I don't feel like I'm really using that when I'm trying to write my own story. But we also don't know if it's going to be any good.
We'll see.
Yeah.
What is the actual Kickstarter? Is that a website that you can upload the actual digital comics to, or is it just like an app?
It's not just comics. It's a crowdfunding site. So the way it works is they do funding through Amazon, but Kickstarter.com I believe is the website, and you submit a project, usually with a video that's hosted by YouTube or whatever. You kind of explain what you're planning to do, and then you set financial goals, and then you just open it up. I think they give you a month to fund it, and if you hit your goal, then you get the money, and I think Amazon takes 5% maybe, because they do all the transactions. But if it doesn't fund, no one pays anything. But the most successful ones I've found are the ones where it's already been done. So my friend Ryan Brown, who did the book God Hates Astronauts, he had finished it already. Like I said, he'd been working on it for the past 10 years. And so when he did his pitch, he showed all the pages, very, very small, but he said, look, this is done. When you pay me, I'm going to get it printed. Like, this is where the money's going. And so it's really good for a project to explain exactly what's going to happen, where all the money will go, and also what the scheduling is going to be. So Ryan spent the last couple months doing nothing but packing up shipping orders. He actually hired a comic book store to help him process all the thousands of orders that he had to go through. But it's a great site. I might use it in the future, but what it's best for is people who haven't had luck anywhere else, or who already have made a name for themselves and just want to get something out quickly.
Oh.
And it's also good to use it in conjunction with social media.
What software do you prefer to submit your covers? Do you have a favorite software program?
You mean to create them digitally, or not just to just email them, right?
Or whatever your tools are that you have to use to submit your work. Are you on a certain software? Or?
I just use Photoshop to draw everything, paint everything, and then the Wacom tablet. So that's it. A lot of people use Painter.
Yeah, I use Photoshop as well. And I have a Cintiq. It's like a tablet you can draw on. Yeah, I think that's Photoshop. I like, there's a program called Sculptris. It's free. It's a sculpting program, SCULPTRIS. Anybody who wants to draw, learn how to sculpt. It's the best way to learn anatomy, for sure. And this way is the easiest because it mirrors everything you do on one side, so you literally only have to sculpt one half of everything. It makes things a lot easier. But I'll do that. I make my own little maquettes for all my characters. That way I can turn them around, light them however I want, and good to go. It's a great program, and it's free. No, it's just a regular computer app. I have it on my iMac, but there is an iPad app. I think it's called 123D Sculpt. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. And actually, that's how I found Sculptures. Is I downloaded that program. I was like, this is awesome, and then found something similar on my computer.
Do you guys find that you're going away from paper now and really drawing a lot more with your computers?
You go digital, right?
Yeah, as for my painted covers, I do it 100% digital. But I still draw on paper for my own stuff. It's just, like I said, the time frame is so tight that it would take me too long if I did anything traditional, really. And I don't like to be rushed, you know, so I don't even want to do it on paper. Like, I'd rather do my whole cover digitally. But if I didn't know how to draw on paper, I couldn't draw digitally.
Yeah, it's the same skill set, for sure. I do, I'm kind of hybrid, so I'll do all my digital layouts, sketching, that's almost all digital, just because it's so easy to rearrange things, change of scale and whatever. And then if I'm working with my dad, I print that out, I pencil on top of it, and then I scan that in, send my dad that, he inks on top of that. I've done a few where I pencil it all completely digitally, and the only original is the inks. But honestly, original art sales is half of my income, so I'm not gonna stop doing that. Like, digital is way faster, but it just, in terms of time versus money, having the original stuff makes a big difference.
Would you say that the client also makes a difference on how you're gonna draw it?
Not so much. Well, it depends. If it's going to be something for Marvel, I'll definitely. There's a better chance that the original art will sell. So I'll usually do all of those, you know, the actual. But if it's going to be something like I just did one for Green Hornet, and I penciled that completely digitally. So there is an original of inks that my dad did, but no original pencils.
What tool do you use to then subsequently, like, I mean, what kind of printer, scanner, I mean, because I'm assuming you print it out on like the 1x17.
Yeah. I am currently running on an R1900 Epson printer, photo printer, but there's a newer version, the R2000, which is pretty nice. My dad has a much cheaper one, the Brother something or other. That's only $200. It's a printer and it's a scanner. The scanner part is kind of unheard of. It's that cheap, but the printer isn't as good, but it's perfect for black and white.
So the printer is a back feed, or it's feed?
The printer actually, I believe it rotates it. So I was kind of skeptical at first, but it seems my dad seems to be using it.
The board held up. You actually just stuck it.
Just stuck it in there, and it worked. Maybe ask my dad how he does it. I have no idea. But
maybe his email address.
Yeah, well, he's down there on the floor. And then the scanner I have at home is the Epson GT20000. You know, it's a bunch of numbers. And that's expensive. That was $1,000. I bought that 2009, but up until that point, I was on my 8.5x11, you know, scanning Iron Man 20x30 in 6 pieces, and scanning it all in Photoshop. And I was like, you know, I can do it quick. And then as soon as I got the big one, I was like, I can't believe I did that. So it is worth it, but you can't really justify that kind of purchase until you're actually making money doing that. So it's a chicken and the egg problem. Anyone else? What are we doing on time? About that time? Any last questions?
I have a question. Talking about how you have a website for your art and everything like that, and I was wondering what you would suggest for a writer in the similar vein that they want to put their stuff out there, but they don't necessarily aren't well known to be published.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd say find an artist. I mean, you're talking about comic
I want to
scripts.
yeah.
I would say find an artist here and team up. Because if you're a writer, if you're a comic book writer, people aren't going to read it until it has art with it.
Okay.
So really, I think, I don't know, I feel like.
I mean, that's pretty much what I thought, but I figured.
Yeah, it is tougher, right? Honestly, it is a lot tougher for writers than artists, but the first step, I think, is just going to be writing something and then getting it, not necessarily published, but yeah, produced in some kind of finished form so that you can hand that to someone to look at. But putting it online is also, you know, a good option.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's always good to team up, you know. Like he said, no one's gonna, if it's a comic book script, no one's gonna read it unless there's art with it. And like I've done like a lot of album covers, you know, for, you know, mostly independent people, but it's like when I do the album cover, now they're gonna print up however many albums that they're gonna print and they're gonna sell, and they're gonna put it on iTunes and all that, and then, so it's like they're working for me, you know, in a sense. So, you know, if you team up with an artist, now they're gonna be your writing. So it's like they're working for you. You know, so it's always good to do that.
Thank you.
All set?
Thank you. We're both in the 800 mile.